before I left school, the war had finished, and they school took a trip up to London with the school children and their parents. Well, they wanted to go, mums went up, and I've never ever forgotten it. As we drove up through the streets of London, people would stop and wave to us and cheer, and the headmaster said, just smile and wave, said they think you're returning evacuees. And anyway, we went to Westminster Abbey. No, what's St Paul's Cathedral, with a round turret. And I've never forgotten it because it stood there, a wonderful building, and everything round it was flat. Nothing was standing. And there was just like the cellars, and they got all this rose bay willow herb all growing up, that red flower. I've never forgotten it. And because during the war, Churchill said, because the Londoners used to say, oh, the St Paul's is still standing. They looked every morning to see, and they thought, while that was standing, London will stand. And he said that had got to be, you know, protected over everything, because, you know, it meant so much to the people. It had several firebombs dropped on it, but there were people there working on it, you know, firefighters and that. But they got to, that was the thing they got to protect from London. And then we had this trip then, we went round and saw that, and then we went to the House of Parliament, where little clever clogs, wasn't the only prize that was given, but we had to tour all around the House of Parliament. I mean, what impressed me most was going where Guy Fawkes, they tried to set fire to the fireworks, and you know, the fire went under there, that's all low, we whacked the people. So we went round there, and our MP said he'd give a prize to the best essay for the girl and one to the boy. And I won it for the girl.
Wow.
That was quite a thing.
That is good fun.
And I could choose any book I wanted, and I chose Joe's Boys by Louise M. Alcott. And it was printed during the war, and the paper, I don't know where it's got to now, it was up the roof, and the paper, like paper is today, not like that, it was like cardboard with all bits of other stuff in it you could see. It was terrible really.
Wow.
But yeah, so I won that, and then when we came out, we went round Westminster Cathedral, because those things were all standing, which was marvellous, and there was someone standing outside selling ice creams, because you could buy ice creams, you see. And so they said, if anyone wants to buy an ice cream, to get in the queue. So Mum got in the queue, and she bought Alan and me a chocolate ice cream. I shall never forget it. And the headmaster's wife wouldn't buy Gwyneth their daughter one, because they said they were too expensive. They were 1 shilling and sixpence, which was a lot those days, I suppose. And she said she's not paying all that. But we had it, and we had one each, and we were so delighted to be able to buy us this chocolate ice cream and stood outside Westminster Abbey eating it.
Wow.
That was one of the trips at school, you know, that I remember at school.
Yeah.
But
So when did you leave school, Gran?
just about, like, as you know, my birthday's now in July, as I was just 14, and I went to be, well, you didn't, what's the name, the apprentice and then, but I would have been apprentice bespoke tailoring, all hand tailoring, and so I didn't know what I wanted. I mean, I'm 14, I haven't got a clue about anything, you haven't those days.
What was your favourite subject at school? Was it writing and...
Well, history actually, I loved history. That's why I did well with that thing. I love anything to do with history, and I like writing. And yeah, but the school was so full of children. They used to have half the class was held in the parish hall, and us older ones was in the parish hall, and the headmaster was ever so ratty old boy, he was past retired age, and there was a stage at the end. He'd stand on the stage and they'd dress us and shout at us, and he used to have a cane and walk up and down and wang this cane about. And one day this boy, Rusty Henman, he hid it on the, in the moors. They used to hang all the maps all round the walls, make it look like school, and he hid it under one of these maps. And the headmaster, I don't know if you ever knew who hid it, he was absolutely berserk. Oh, Rusty hid it.
What kind of punishments did people have?
Well, I'll tell you one of my punishments that I've never forgotten. My main punishment was talking in class. And I used to have my knuckles round.
Did you?
But I've been doing some writing and I had to take it up to headmistress. She was, not headmistress, she was evacuee teacher, Miss Smith, and she got grey hair, she wore a grey suit, she was always dressed in grey, and I'd written, whatever I'd written, I don't know what it was, so she said, you've spelt because wrong, again, spelt because, so I said, I shall never be able to spell because as long as I live. You revolting child, she said, sit down there on the floor, not facing the class, back to the class. Said, you revolting child, she said. And I never forgot it. But I'm not that I write because very often, but if I come across it, I always think of it.
Oh. So you left school and you became a seamstress, wasn't it?
Miss Doe Taylor is like making men's suits and ladies' suits, they were there. And mostly you did the main seams by machine, but everything was done by hand. And they put a suit into a competition open to the whole of the country, and we won the cup and the White Rose. And I was 16 at the time, and I'd put all the buttonholes in it, and it was a presentation at the town hall, and so I had to go up before the tailor and cutter people to take my praise for buttonholes.
Wow.
But I quite liked this around my friends.
Yeah.
I mean, I was only 14. I mean, it's cruel to send children to really at 14 to go to school, to go to work.
Do you think you would have done anything different if you could have stayed at school longer or had a better education?
I hadn't really thought about anything.
No.
You know, you're still a child, really.
Yeah. So, how did you get into the bespoke?
Well, I saw the job advertised in the paper.
Oh, yeah.
So I've seen just a job fusion and I've written off after it. Never said I want to do it.
No.
That was it.
But you used to make your own clothes and like do Mum and Auntie Julie's clothes, didn't you, as well?
And other people's clothes. Just do lots of sewing.
Yeah.
Curtains, anything sewing.
Yeah.
Well, just like sewing, really.
Yeah. So, let's have a look. We've heard quite a lot about your childhood, and we've heard about your family. What about our family? What about Grandad? Tell us about Grandad. When did you first meet Grandad?
I met him at dancing classes. Everybody knows the town of it. And I was 16, I think. And they were having dancing classes, professional people coming out. The Grace Wharton School of Dancing was coming to give lessons to young people. We got to the parish hall of schools, all kept together like you would do. And when we got in there, all the boys, there was a row of tables at the back of the room, and the boys all sat balancing on the tables like they would. And at the other end of the room, the parish hall, all the girls sat ladylike on the chairs. Never the twain shall meet to dance. So she said, now, you know, you've got to take a part because nobody moved. So she said, right, says you, I should call on to Grandad, pulled him over to me and said, you two can dance together. And that's where I first met him. But another friend of mine, she was very fond of this other bloke named John, lived in the village, and she said, you two can dance together, and both of us got married to the partners. And but I didn't go out with him then, and bless him, he's never been able to dance, and he said he had 2 left feet. And so we used to go once a week to dancing classes, and then when you were 18 you got called up to do national service, you know, in the army or Air Force, or you went in the Air Force.
Right.
And he was a carpenter, and he was apprenticed to Lord Northampton's estate, you know, Castle Ashby. And so he went into the Air Force, and then by then somebody had started a youth club in the village. Because he got from Cook now, and I might add he brought another girl with him to the dancing classes. Terrible person. Can't remember what she was like, but they all biked over on bikes that day. And so we went to youth club, and who should turn up at youth club but Grandad? And we became friendly, no more than just friendly. And then he had to go to Germany. He was sent to Germany to, you know, do his lot of time in Germany.
Oh, did he?
Yeah. He was at the time of what's called the Berlin airlift, when Russia separated Germany, and they couldn't get any coal or food the other side, and filling up the planes with coal and food, loading it up in one side of Germany for it to be flown over to the other side. And that's what he was doing, loading up. And then, anyway, then he came home on leave again. And during this time I wanted a new bicycle, you see. And I'd seen this one, £18, which was a lot of money, in Andrews, this bike shop in Abington Street. So Mum said, well, I'll come with you and have a look, see what I think to it. So we went and had a look at it, says, oh yes, that's nice. So you can bike home on it and I'll go home on the bus. So I was biking up the Billing Road, and down came this gorgeous, handsome hunk in Air Force uniform with his hat on one side, like they had sort of hat, kit bag on his shoulder. Oh God, nearly fell off my bike. And he spoke to me, that's all, he spoke to me. I couldn't rush to get home quick enough to tell Phil that I'd seen that Frank Gibbons, so I thought his name was Gibbons. I thought it was Frank Gibbons, and I said, and he spoke to me. I was that thrilled that he spoke to me. But then I met again at youth club again, and we got friendly. But there was another boy who was after me at the same time, and like a lot of boys, when they grow tall all of a sudden, they sort of bend over, don't